When the media talks about Pakistan, it's usually after something bad happens.
Floods in Pakistan's Punjab province have displaced more than 1.5 million people.
A deadly escalation between two nuclear nations.
But away from the headlines, there's a different story unfolding. Coming up, locals trying to ensure protecting nature remains part of the national conversation.
Based on the reporting that we get quite often, is that this was a complete failure of the government system.
People should have been evacuated weeks in advance.
And through the streets of Lahore, a city known for its flavour, some voices remind us what resilience can look like.
We must equip ourselves. There's nobody who's going to come and help us.
Just 2 degrees is on. Now.
So during your lifetime, you're actually seeing the changes unfold.
It's a train and it's coming. And it's coming hard.
There's a cabin in the woods where I go to be alone. It's loud with calm and full of nothing.
When you look at these images, what do you see? Sure, it's a flooded neighborhood, but there is a lot more happening in this village in Pakistan's Dadu district. An 18-month-old baby is hospitalized and receives an intravenous drip. But because his mother could not afford further treatment, they're forced to leave the hospital. The boy suffers diarrhea and dies a day later. And here, what do you see? Below, a doctor writes to the Chief Minister of Sindh Province. In his passionate letter, he describes a patient with open wounds, sweating in the heat and unable to move from the waist down, begging for a fan or an AC to be installed. And here, acres and acres of agricultural land, no doubt, but what isn't obvious are the rice, wheat, cotton, and mustard seed crops drowning in these waters. An image that represents thousands of families who've lost most, if not all, of their belongings. They've lost their farm animals and have been turned away from grocery stores after being refused further credit to buy bread. One farmer described not knowing how he would pay back the nearly $600 he owes his landlord for fertilizer, seeds, and equipment. Figures and percentages are often rattled off to describe the loss of life and earnings in places like Pakistan after disasters like this. The news media, after all, can be a brutal, insensitive beast. But these accounts of personal loss, as recorded by Amnesty International, highlight words and emotions many of us will neither utter nor feel, ever. The tragedy in August is just one chapter in Pakistan's long struggle with water. Too much of it, or too little. And in another part of the country, a very different kind of battle is being waged, one that could redefine the future of an ancient river. The Ravi is one of the tributaries of the Indus, Pakistan's largest river. It's just over 700 kilometers long, and its importance could not be overstated, as it sustains hundreds of millions of people.
You can make rivers an integral part of an urban ecosystem, or you can wall them, shrink them, and use the land recovered for development.
Today, the Ravi stands at the center of one of Pakistan's most contentious development battles. This story began in August 2020, when the government launched the Ravi Riverfront Urban Development Project. It was a plan to build a new city meant to span 40,000 hectares on both sides of the Ravi. The project was touted as an ecological revival, with organizers promising clean water, economic growth, and urban renewal.
So the revival of Lahore from outside Lahore, from the Ravi riverbed, where the city gets most of its vegetables from, and displacing farmers and displacing other laborers who inhabit that part of Lahore is mindless. I mean, there's no reason, there's no other reason. And then coercive measures to grab people's lands and the coercive tools that the district administration applied.
Before the project's land was acquired, over 80% of it was agricultural and sustained thousands of farming families. It was also on a floodplain where water was prevented from entering because of a deal with India called the Indus Water Treaty. It was in part why 2 years after construction began, Lahore's High Court declared the project unconstitutional and called it ecologically reckless. But Pakistan's Supreme Court eventually suspended the ruling, and construction continued on the condition that land be acquired with consent.
We were demanding that there should be a more inclusive and a fresh environmental impact assessment of Ravi riverfront, but that never took place.
We reached out to the Ravi Urban Development Authority for comment, but received none.
Entire swathes of terrain once classified as flood-prone by the Punjab Irrigation Department were rezoned to allow housing schemes. But no one was prepared for the monsoon rains in August 2025. And it says it was forced to release nearly 6 million litres of water into Pakistan to conserve its dams.
Entire neighborhoods, many built on what were once natural flood buffers, were submerged. Almost 1,000 people were drowned or electrocuted, and over 2 million others were displaced. Along the banks of the Ravi River, I met environmental lawyer Rafay, one of the petitioners representing farmers in their case against the Ravi River Urban Development Project, a housing scheme he and others call an environmentally destructive project.
Rivers have a sort of life of their own, and when human beings interfere with rivers, even for good purpose, whether it's a weir or a barrage or a dam to protect flooding, when you interfere with the geomorphology of a river, the impacts of that construction can be felt sometimes decades and sometimes hundreds of miles from where the original intervention took place. And that is a lesson we need to learn about how we've put these barrages through Punjab, which have made Punjab incredibly wealthy. But the impact of those constructions downstream have to be better appreciated. And we need to learn before we put more infrastructure up as best we can on how these impacts affect us so that we can minimize them as much as possible.
When you look at the systems that were in place that led to the massive flooding we saw in August 2025, what was missing? What were the loopholes that led to such catastrophic flooding?
First of all, you have to understand it was unprecedented levels of rain that fell in the northern reaches of, well, the Himalayan mountain ranges and north of Pakistan that swelled up the valleys and the small rivulets and tributaries of the main rivers and caused massive flooding. Flooding is natural. Flooding is going to take place. What you have to be is prepared. What we saw here in Punjab on the 18th of August, the Flood Forecasting Division of the Met Department issued notifications more or less saying when the flood was going to happen and how long it was going to last. We saw essentially 2 or 3 weeks of flooding. But what I was surprised by was that at the end of this, at 2 or 3 weeks down, there weren't any rescue and relief operations downstream in South Punjab. That's a failure of our disaster management. That, I think, was inexcusable. People should have been evacuated weeks in advance. That was the loophole that was missing.
When people look at the legal system that contributed to this, how do you explain to the international community what, whether or not there was corruption involved, whether or not this was just nature versus everything else? I mean, how do you explain to someone looking on who's thinking, based on the reporting that we get quite often, is that this was a complete failure of the government system?
Climate change impacts are felt locally. They're felt on the ground. And so disaster management has to be as close to the ground as possible as well. It has to be based on strong local government. We don't have robust local government in Pakistan. You can't get that final step of emergency relief and response and rescue unless you have robust local government. And that really is a lesson for all other countries in the global south that are struggling with trying to show donors that they're trying to get money to where the communities that have been impacted are. We need, in all of these places, stronger democracies and local governments.
We saw at the Ravi development area that construction has restarted. Have developers, has the government learned their lesson? Are they doing things differently this time?
It's difficult to say because it's still so soon after the event, but I understand the Ravi Urban Development Authority is seeking a 300 billion rupee loan to embank both sides of the Ravi, and they claim this will reduce flood risks in the future. I tend to disagree because there have been alternate studies that say you can protect the floodplain without any embankments and protect against flooding so long as you don't allow people to construct in the floodplain. Or if you allow them to do so, that they have sufficient protections against flooding so that the people who live in their communities won't be impacted. You can do it. The Dutch did it for 500 years. Their land is underneath the sea, but they've spent lots of money and lots of technology to make sure that they don't get flooded. So firstly, don't develop in the river, in the floodplain. And secondly, if you are, take a bit of your profits and put them into flood protection so that your consumers don't get impacted.
Based on how you see things going right now, is this going to happen again in 2026?
I can't say it'll happen in 2026, but we are going to be flooded again. That is going to happen. The monsoon rains are just such. I was surprised that the Ravi flooded this year. I really was. I really didn't think the Ravi could flood because there's a dam upstream Lahore. But it did. It surprised all of us. But what I do know for certain is that global warming is a reality. There is still greenhouse gases increasing global temperatures, and those increasing global temperatures will increase the intensity of the monsoon rain. So there will inevitably be flooding. It might not be here in Lahore. It might be somewhere else in Pakistan. For instance, the 2022 floods, it rained in parts of Pakistan, in Sindh and Balochistan, where it normally doesn't rain. It flooded very differently in 2022.
Let's look at government communication. There are reports that says that India informed the Pakistani government that they would release let the water flow out of the dam. There are other reports saying that this communication did not happen. How do you think this really unfolded?
Well, you have to understand that there are three major what are called storage dams in India on the eastern rivers of the Indus Basin. So that's the Beas, the Sutlej, and the Ravi. The Pong Dam, the Bhakra Dam, and the Ranjit Sagar or Theen Dam are the three storage dams that India has constructed. And the job of these dams is to collect monsoon rain and snow melt in the summer and store it so that this water can be used in the dry winter months. And it so happened that by mid-August, these reservoirs were already full. So when the intense rain in late August and early September started, the critical levels of these dams were being approached, and according to their own operating manuals, water had to be released to protect the structure. And so water was released from all three dams, and it wound up flooding for the Pong Dam and the Bhakra Dam, hundreds of villages on the Indian side. And as far as the Ranjit Sagar Dam is concerned, there was 100,000 cusecs that was released. However, the dam managers didn't inform downstream irrigation officials in India, in a place called Madhupur, that the water was coming. And so the Madhupur barrage was actually damaged on account of the flood release. So to think that India released the water to spite Pakistan is actually incorrect. They did it because they were following flood measures. But there were failures in their own governance to inform their own people that they were doing so. And as a result, there's been tremendous amounts of loss, not only of property, but of livestock in Indian Punjab.
floods in August 2025 swallowed roads and homes and broke the local rhythm. And because food in Pakistan is pride, it's culture, when the Ravi spills over, farmers and pretty much everyone else feel it. To get a taste of that connection and about how agriculture and appetite go hand in hand, I caught up with food blogger Asad Monga.
I work as a chef, I work as a food experience creator, I work as a food consultant, and I think that's some of it. And I try my best to use Pakistani seasonal ingredients to showcase my skill as a cook and what nature has to offer. Now more than ever, a cook needs to be grateful for what they have right now, because in the future they might not have it. Or what it looks like to them, it might look different in the next few years. It is under threat, but that's why I guess cooks should be at the forefront leading this, the movement in which we need to combat the effects of climate change. Guavas grow in the southern parts of Punjab. Central Sindh is famous for guavas.
I haven't seen guavas in maybe over a decade. They used to grow a lot in my country, but then the trees just died out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the trees just died out. And quite often back then, if there was not a worm in a guava, then it probably wasn't a good guava. We used to eat the worms in them.
Interesting. Assalamu alaikum. Yes, ji.
I like his response. Interesting.
No, I would eat the worm too. I mean, whatever.
So you have worms in guavas
sometimes,
here as well?
Yeah, sometimes. Do you want to buy some?
I want to try one.
एक try करेंगे जी.
How much is the guava?
2-3 pieces दे दें बस. I think just pick up maybe this one.
Yeah, I do want the largest one.
But this is the riper one. So
Oh, you think it's better when it's not as ripe?
yeah, I think it has to be a mix, right? It has to be a little green and a little ripe so that it is just the right taste
I like
profile.
that.
I think you should definitely get this one. ये वाला ले लें. थोड़ा एक आधा किलो दे दें आगे. कितने का?
ये 70 रुपए पाव
सब पाव दे दें.
आधा किलो कराओगे
नहीं आधा किलो कैरी कहाँ करेंगे उस्ताद जी पाव दे दो.
What are you telling him?
I'm just telling him कि just give us 250 grams.
250 grams of course.
Yeah, 250 grams. एक पाव means 250 grams.
Ah, super.
आधा kilo means half kg.
Nice.
Kilo means kg. Yeah. So
Can I just have one now?
Yeah, but just wait. Let me. नहीं कटना नहीं हो. Just
Thank you so much. All right, where should I bite in first?
एप्पल में डाल दो.
I think start with the non-soft space.
Got it.
Yeah, and then taste it. And
No.
thank you. Good.
I've missed this.
Nice. I love guavas too. You know they're great for your stomach. Generally,
Really?
gut health in general.
That's good to know.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Let's go.
Yeah. So naan, we don't have a like a big leavened bread eating culture. Of course, we eat the Wonder bread. It's prevalent in Pakistan, just the white bread that you eat usually. And the naan is our answer to that leavened bread. It's like flat. You've had naan.
Yeah.
You know what naan is.
Of course.
So, and I just saw a shop doing that. Maybe you want to later try it out, and then
Sure,
we see.
let's do it.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. The guy said made this heart-shaped naan for us. All right, just by looking at this initially, by your standards, is this a good naan?
Yeah, it's good. You see the quality of the wheat used is nice because you see the coloring on the sides. It means it's been fermented nicely and it's been baked to perfection in the tandoor.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna now break your heart naan. Let's have a taste test.
God. It does not get better.
Nice, simple, clean flavors. And Chana and roti is considered a staple breakfast here because it gives you dense nutrition like really fast, so you can kickstart your day and do whatever you need to do.
And all the calories you need for breakfast. You were mentioning earlier that you can see that this was a high-grade wheat. I wonder how wheat stocks, how agriculture has been affected by the floods in August 2025 this year.
Wheat is Pakistan's cash crop, and it's a mode of sustainability for us because we need to eat the bread, eat our naan, eat our rotis. Of course, because of the floods and the areas which have been affected, crops have been affected. That means the supply of wheat in the coming months will be affected. That means it might strain our import bill for wheat. It's a cascading effect that things have due to this one change.
I wonder if those impacts, how are they being felt by regular people here?
Dude, climate change is inevitable for Pakistan now. We are at the brunt of facing the worst kind of extremities in the climate as the season changes. Just speaking of this summer, like you said, in August, I was personally there in Hunza when one of the villages got affected deeply by glaciers melting. And imagine being 9,200 feet above sea level and facing temperatures like 45 degrees Celsius. Of course, the glaciers are going to melt, and it's only going to get worse. Because I've been tracking the climate for in that region for the past 3-4 years, and I see the trend is going towards heating. The seasons are shifting. Let's say, for example, if apricots on the trees used to ripen in August, late August, now they're ripening. They're ripening even before July.
So during your lifetime, you're actually seeing the changes unfold.
Absolutely, and in a very short frame of time. It's very alarming.
Is this recognizable by the people in power who can help change things, you think? Do they see a crisis unfolding? Are they actively trying to make things easier for regular people, you think, based on your observations?
Man, if I'm to be very, very honest, we are the people who are in power or ruling our country, I think they are unaware of the enormity of the situation that's about to hit us. And people who are severely affected in the northern areas of Pakistan and the southern areas of Pakistan, they have to figure out their own systems, their own community-led based systems to help them absorb the impact of climate change, because it's a train and it's coming hard. You just have to be better equipped to deal with it. To have, for people in the northern areas, to have early warning systems so that they're aware of if a flood is about to hit or the water levels are rising up above a certain extent, that people are given those warning signs or signals that, hey, you better evacuate this area because something's about to happen. So I know it's very sad, but it's inevitable. And we must equip ourselves. There's nobody who's going to come and help us. And of course, and it's very sad because Pakistan doesn't even contribute so much to the global emissions, but we're going to be the leaders who face the impact of climate change.
It's time for Just Two Matter, where the little things mean everything. And today, it's something you've probably had in your hand 100 times, maybe even right now. A cup of chai. Chai is a lot more than a drink in Pakistan. It's an invitation to talk and feel seen. From the corner stalls that stay open late to homes where the pot's always ready. It's how people connect here. Chai first, then everything else. It's a blend of leaves, milk and spice boiled slowly and poured high. Each region stirs it a little differently. Karachiites like a bit of cardamom, Lahoris go for cinnamon, and in Multan they add a touch more sugar. But behind that shared ritual is an economy. Millions of small vendors make a living, from the small dabbas tucked along dusty roads to train windows where a hand and a cup meet for just a second. The enough for a sip and a smile. And together they fuel something much bigger. Pakistan imports more tea than almost any other country, nearly 250,000 tons in the past year alone, worth around $635 million. That's a lot of money for something so simple, but maybe that's what makes chai so powerful. So the next time you hold that small, chipped cup, remember it's not just tea, it's connection, and a culture brewed strong enough to hold a nation together. And that's our show. From rivers that rise and fall, to crops that feed a nation, to the cups of chai that bring people together. Every story we've told today flows from the same source. A story of how Pakistan keeps finding warmth even after the waters recede. Because whether it's in the fields of Punjab or the kitchens of Lahore, life here refuses to lose its flavor.